Well, before everything else, at this link you find the material of the speech, because if you need some support, you will find the slides and a draft of what I'm going to say. So if you need to follow that, you find everything here. And in the meanwhile, I want to tell you how I arrived here today. Nothing fancy, nothing emotional, just literally how I got here. And this morning, I biked to the station, and I'm one of those people who bikes to the station at least in every weather, with the motto, there is no good or bad weather, just good or bad equipment. But the equipment you need when there is bad weather, it's way more difficult to prepare than the one you need when it's sunny. And so I checked the weather, and I checked it today and in the previous day, and I went to ilmeteo.it, which is one of the most visited websites in Italy in general and about weather. And they provide this useful table, and you can see the weather for each time of the day. So I checked the weather for the most relevant times for me. And then I thought that I'm not the only person who needs to be prepared about the weather. And so I tried to stress the website with a keyboard navigation, a screen reader navigation, and when I navigate ilmeteo.it via screen reader, now you can't see actually what it's going to say, but it took me the announcement of 27 elements before having a clue about the weather. And then you will see it maybe right now, just a moment, and you will see that. You have the time, the weather about each day, and then this table that was very useful for me is completely skipped. Absolutely. If you are using a screen reader, you don't have a clue about the weather in each time of the day. And, well, if you are a legally blind person, you can be a complete blind person, but you also can be a not so... you can still have some point of view, spot of your field of vision still usable, and you will use that. And to show you that, I choose those video that is a funny video about a couple, and one of these husband is blind, and the other one pranks him continually about his blindness, and in this case is trying to see how long does it take to this blind husband to realize they're wearing matching outfit. And the relationship is like that more or less always, and it's funny, but this is clear that he can still spot something, that he has a small part of vision still usable, even if it's really, really small. And so even legally blind people can see sometimes some part of your page, but also a screen reader can be used also from people that have other kinds of disability. Yes, blind people, but also low vision people, also people with a cognitive disability, with deafness. That seems strange, actually, if you your first language is a sign language, you will probably don't be so fluent in a written language. And also, it's not important which kind of disability. It's important that a lot of people can actually see the screen while using a screen reader. And imagine that experience we saw that is not fair for a complete blind person, how disorienting can be for a person that still sees some spot of the screen. Then my journey continued, and I took a train. well, actually I took 2 trains, but I have a pass for one of them, so I just bought the other one ticket, and I bought a ticket online. And since in Italy the high-velocity trains are provided both from Trenitalia and to Italo, I checked the 2 websites. But then I thought again, what if I had tremors due to degenerative illness like Parkinson? What if I had a bad tendinitis? And what if simply my trackpad were broken and I wasn't able to use my trackpad, my mouse, and so on? And so I thought that I would probably navigate the website with a keyboard. And this is what happened when you navigate Italo website with a keyboard. Something is happening. You maybe can't see that, but something, now you can see that something is actually happening, and you can see that here, something is changing, but you have no visual focus, no visible focus on which part of the page you are in. And at a certain point, I managed to enter the departure and arrival form, but it wasn't possible on a keyboard navigation to select actually the 2 stations. And so I wasn't able to complete my task. Then I tried to do that on the Trenitalia website. And in this case, the focus indicator is visible. And I'm not very fast because I'm not usually keyboard user, so you will see that I'm really, really slow doing all the process, and we can also skip a little bit of that. But I managed to look for all the timetable in Trenitalia. So, if I were a keyboard user, from which website do you think I would have bought my ticket? Well, from the only one that was allowing me to do that. The reason is simple. I chose these 2 examples, not because these are the only things I encounter in my journey today. I probably met a lot of other barriers I didn't even notice because I'm not a disabled user. But I choose this example because are examples of digital inaccessibility. And digital accessibility is my focus since I am a user designer. And in the latest year, I realized how important is, if you want to speak about user experience, to speak also about accessibility. In particular, accessibility address the needs of people with disabilities, but also, if you don't think more in general to the characteristic of a person. And so the called inclusive design, which take in consideration also characteristics like age, digital competence, economic background, status, and so on. And I share these things in a daily newsletter on LinkedIn that is called an Accessibility Link a Day. Well, coming back to the inaccessibility example we saw this before, whose fault is this? Or better, whose responsibility is to guarantee accessibility on a website? It's a developer's fault. I'm brave because I think that a lot of you are developers to say that here. Well, I will arrive to the answer, but step by step, and with a shift of perspective. And the shift is shift accessibility left. Shift left in terms of time. Accessibility needs to arrive at the beginning of the whole process. If we think about accessibility from the first phases of our project, it's simple. Maybe at the beginning it can be so easy, but then it began to be something that the whole team can actually see, and they don't need to think about that more after our initial period. For instance, it's impossible for me now, not seeing a bad color contrast. I don't need to check it. I see it because I tried it a lot of times and now it's impossible not to see that, or not to get that links and buttons doesn't have speaking text on them. And is it difficult? Well, in some cases, accessibility can be difficult, but in the most of the cases, you can start small, and starting small, you can start from these kind of things that are not so difficult to fix or better to avoid. This is a graph that is come from a research that is made each year, analyzing 1 million of home pages worldwide. And the most common wicked failures they found out in this home page are quite simple things, like low contrast on text. I'm speaking about text, not the other kind of graphical elements from which could be a little bit tricky sometimes to find out a solution. Missing alt text, missing labels and a play link, missing empty buttons, missing language of the page. So these things are not so difficult to fix. And you can start from them. Not being able to guarantee 100% accessible or better, compliant website can be an excuse not to work on something. But you have to shift it left also from a team member's point of view, because accessibility is a teamwork, and each person in the team has to be sure to guarantee these. And we now will see a little checklist that it's absolutely not complete. There are a lot of other things that can be done about accessibility, but we can start from these and then progress in our journey, because accessibility is a journey, not a destination. So for team leaders, need to provide training. Legals have to make sure that we understand the law and that we turn regulation into concrete action. Researchers, people doing all the requirement parts, needs to remember to interview people with disability, because if we don't have a disability or we don't have a particular disability, we can see some things. I surely encountered other barriers on my way to get here to Bologna, but I wasn't able to see them. So it's important also to involve people with disability in the process. And then people like content designer needs to write clear text, easy to understand, with no jargon or abbreviation. Sometimes it's very difficult for people coming from another field to understand abbreviation. Also for me this morning, I listened to the keynote that I loved, but sometimes some abbreviation weren't so clear for me. Then maybe I arrived to them because I'm not in a completely outside world, but they're not so clear. They have to understand that headings are present and that are in a proper order. The text alternatives are present for images, like alt text, but also for other media. And the text on the buttons and link is meaningful. If you never try to navigate via screen reader a page that has those links like more, see, go, and things like that, do it, please, because it's a very funny way to listen to that marvelous echo effect. So please do that. For people that develop information architecture, have to be sure that content is in a logical structure that is easy to understand, that speaks the language of the people using that product, and also that page titles are useful and understandable. For visual designers need to check that there is a sufficient color contrast on each element. that color is not only used as the only way to convey information, that buttons and active elements are big enough to be touched or clicked, that detectable states are active for those elements, that the text is easy to read with choosing the right font, selecting the right line height with no wall of text. People doing UX, they have to be sure that every component have a behavior that is easy to understand, that errors are prevented, or at least that they are easy to recover, that the flows are linear, and that there aren't time constraints to them. And they have also to think about the reading and the focus order of the elements, and do that in collaboration with developers. Development. I know that this list is not complete and not exhaustive, but I made an effort to do that. And first of all, that the code is correct using standard HTML. And adding ARIA, but only if it's necessary, not always, not everywhere. They have... Sorry? Accessible, I don't know actually. That's a good question. I can't remember that actually. It is accessible enrichment of something like that. I actually didn't check that because I thought that all the developers knew that, and it's my fault. You're right. Thank you. Screen reader and keyboard navigation is enabled. Adding maybe the skip links, checking if focus is visible, and things like that. Check if the page is resizable. And also, at the end, quality assurance. And user testers need to, well, set accessibility as a goal and include people with disability. So, who is the responsibility of this, of making something accessible? The whole team. And from the beginning. And why care about that? Well, the first thing is easy, because of the law. And we have European Accessibility Act coming in a few days. But then also because it's a good marketing strategy. Remember the case of my train ticket. And I want to add that at the beginning of this year, in January, Italia was in the same position as Italy. It was impossible for a keyboard user to buy a ticket in Italy, online at least. It should have gone to a train station and bought the ticket physically. Because it's for everyone, yes, for people with a permanent disability, visual, auditory, but also cognitive or neurological disability, for people with a temporary disability, like the bad tendinitis, but also recovering from an eye surgery, things like that. But also for situational disability. When we are in a situation that disables us, we can experience that in a lot of ways, like seeing a screen in bright sun, or trying to listen to something in a very noisy place, having a baby on your arm, and not only babies, because when babies grow, they give you things to hold. So you always have your arm full of stuff. And if all those reasons are not enough, do it for yourself, for your future self, so for future self-ness, because if we are lucky, we will get older, and we will hear less, see less, have less dexterity, we'll have to deal with technology we never used before. So if you don't want to do that for anything else, do that for yourself. Thank you. Thank you.
So we have a few questions here. You haven't used it. If you give me. Okay. So I'm asking before the question on Slido that I already asked 10 minutes ago. Then okay, then I give you. Okay, the first one is: have you tried to navigate the PyCon website?
Yes, I tried it, and probably it wasn't 100% accessible because 100% accessible is a unicorn, so no, but there weren't particularly things that enable completely the navigation. Also, an important thing is to guarantee that the main flows are accessible. If there is just one little thing that isn't, yeah, it's a good thing to fix it, but it's not so important. So it was okay. Not perfect, okay.
Okay, thank you. So we'll say to people that build the website, I don't know where they are. Okay. Would you say accessible is like security and needs to be part of the project from the beginning, not bolted at the end?
Yeah, because just think about it. You did all the things you have to be doing for doing a website, all the things. I mean, a lot of clicks, all these. And then at the end, you have to begin again. Also, you have to do an audit to do the audit, check for all the priorities, and re-implement, redesign. So it's really heavier than thinking about accessibility from the beginning. You need some training at the beginning, but then it's easier to do all the things.
Thank you. What about your slides? Are they accessible?
Quite accessible. I'm not really sure because these things is actually something strange to do because I just separate all the phrases, so there are different things, but there is a title that is accessible, and unfortunately PowerPoint doesn't allow me to just let the screen reader reading the title, but not these things. But I don't like very much PowerPoint, but it's the most accessible way to do an accessible presentation. Strange, but true. And that's why my presentation is in PowerPoint.
Thank you. Do you think that AI can help access to inaccessible websites?
Well, this is another talk, first of all. It surely can help in some ways. Just think about trying to help you writing an alt text, but I'm thinking also about all the possibility to read the environment we are in through the AI. But you don't have to forget about the people you're doing things for. And you have to put at the center of everything the people. And sometimes AI is not so good at understanding the context, at least not now. And so it can be something useful, but for the moment, it can't fix accessibility. You can't fix accessibility through AI. You can use it to help you fix accessibility.
Hi. First of all, Chiara, thank you for your presentation. I think it was insightful and valuable, no matter of your role. And I just wanted to ask you, do you think there will be any negative effects from that we could see from the European Accessibility Act, like cookie policy, health, for example?
I hope so. I'm actually not feeling so confident about that because when you see things from just a legal point of view, you try just to fix the things to be compliant, but I would love if something positive is coming from that. Let's say that something positive is happening because some websites are trying to guarantee more accessibility. Like say Trenitalia website actually wasn't until this March that was wasn't accessible via keyboard. And so I hope that something good is coming from that, but I fear that when there is no shift of perspective, and just not shift left, but in general, I'm not so sure that we will see really accessible things. Like say in Italy, we have the Legge Stanca, which is a law that was requested to public, sorry, I can't say the word in this moment, public administrations to make a website accessible. Well, they are more accessible than other websites, but are not completely accessible. And it's 20 years that this law is around. So hope so, not so sure.
What about accessibility for developers? We talk every time about final website, but not about impaired developer that have to share instrument, usually closed source or similar.
Yeah, this is a very interesting field. Sometimes is completely forget the part for, like say, developers, but also internal users. We make maybe the website accessible, but we don't think about making our intranet accessible. So our colleagues that needs support to visit our intranet don't have this kind of possibility. I believe that we are not so close to also that, but maybe step by step, we will arrive also to do things. I mean, maybe in some fields it's easier, like say, like things like games. Video games are really trying to get also all the part of accessibility. So this is a nice thing. We will arrive to that maybe sometime.
Interesting. So screen readers are difficult if you are not used them before. Any tips? Is keyboard test a good replacement? Is the keyboard
well, can be for something, but I think that the best advice for using a screen reader is be sure to know how to stop a screen reader before you start it, because the first time is very disruptive, let's say, but then you can try to use it. Obviously, I'm not using it like a real user, but some things are really obvious when you open it and listen for the first time. And screen readers are hard to use, and sometimes are not so usable because you need to know some technical stuff to understand what a screen reader is telling you. And probably we should also work on screen readers and give screen readers a better usability. I'm not a real user, and I can do a lot of things. Sometimes I just write to a friend that is using a screen reader, and I'm not able to do that. Is inaccessible, or I am the one that is not able to do that? Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's the fact that I'm using just voiceover, and sometimes it's really inaccessible.
Thank you very much. We are out of time, but you answered all the questions. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.